rising to a very important position in the future is building, taking civilian initiatives such as the Silk Belt. They don't all over by Africa, for instance. I've seen them operate in Africa, and they don't care whether we are Maoist or Confucianist. They're not coming with the sword, and they're not coming with the Bible, and I think that's nice.
Well, what do you think is the worst case scenario that's going to happen out of this? Is there going to be maybe increase of U.S. activities, given that they know that China has now increased its defense spending?
That's very likely. It'll be used as a pretext. The same way that Russia, with 80% of NATO's military expenditures, Crimea is used as a pretext, which is actually a reaction to the regime change policies in Kiev. But yes, I think it will be, because the mindset of people in the West, particularly our government, not our peoples, are for more military spending. Military spending as a solution to any problem that has nothing to do with military solution. Look at the Middle East. It's been destroyed thanks to this thinking. And it will be the end of the West. That one of the reasons the Western power, the Western culture, the Western hemisphere, the United States as an empire is on its way down is exactly over militarization. It's the inability to think in intelligent civilian terms.
Thank you, Jan Oberg, founder of transnational.org. Good luck.
And welcome to a whole new edition of Outside the Box TV. I'm Alex Ansary. At the moment of recording, it is August 30th in the year 2017. I'm here off the grid. That's my home and my studio that I've been living in for at least 1.3 years. And it's been an interesting incarnation, being born in Portland, Oregon, and going through my own trials and tribulations early on in life. Finding myself, if you will, after 9/11, becoming a public speaker, stepping into the shoes as the only man of Afghan blood. Although my mother is an Oregonian, or was, she lives in New York now, and she is white. I'm the only person with genetics that hails from the land of the bombed. That happens to be a top trending story. Afghanistan, Afghanistan, Afghanistan. And the big part of my story is my escape from Portland, Oregon, a supposed progressive city that in fact, in no way, shape, or form felt like an open city when I was there. And I can see how a combination of ethnicity being different, politics, not being a Republican or a Democrat, can alienate an independent thinker from support and warrant unnecessary charges of being crazy or a conspiracy theorist. So before I was attacked for being different by today's race identity politics, or for not being a Republican or a Trump supporter, I remember what it was like for the Obama supporters to start treating me in a cold way when Bush was no longer in office. Stepping away from Portland really helped clean up my eyesight, and I would even say other aspects of my my body physically. Things aren't perfect. Things are difficult, but I can feel certain elements of my senses, my instincts, my intuition, my drive, my self-love, my connection to nature. There is a massive healing experience that I'm still going through, healing from the experience of living in Portland. And the more that I watch the people suffering in Portland, and the mental health episodes, and the political street gangs in the streets, while people misidentify it as a civil war, It's really gang fighting in the streets. People really are meeting up in the streets like it's outsiders, but you don't see people bullhorning, megaphoning about the victims of war. You don't see an anti-war movement. So as Portlanders, as those of you on YouTube, right, watch these things take place, I want you to remember me. I want you to remember that I did exist. I want you to remember that I did try. I want you to remember that I was on the air in Portland for nearly a decade. And I want you all to remember that I was forgotten and judged for my actions. And it was that type of alienation and sense of, wow, these Portlanders are literally leaving me out in the street to die. Year 2014, come back home free living. I bring this up because some of you are going to be living the refugee experience sooner than later. We look at the not only the war situation and the potential for massive evacuation if West Coast cities find themselves under attack by North Korea. We see the fires that are raging in Oregon. Some of you believe that climate change is causing this, and you will still discount also the sun to contribute climate change effects, despite what you've heard about the sun acting up, large solar flares, a weakening Earth's magnetic field. Many people have chosen to filter that out and call people crazy that actually look in the direction of science. So whether you're actually willing to look at the changes that are coming, whether you're on the West Coast, the East Coast, or another country, again, many hellos and thank yous to those that are watching from Europe. There's certainly way more people, for some reason, messaging me from Europe, from Scandinavia, from the UK, from France, sometimes from Germany. There are far more people in Europe that are contacting me from Portland, Oregon, the city in which this airs on cable access and the city in which I was born. So just a little trivia there. But I think it's really important at this time to reach out to people in urban environments that have been programmed to think that they aren't going to be affected by major changes on the planet. We're talking Democrats, we're talking Republicans. So we can see the housing crisis, we can see the natural disasters, we could see Hurricane Harvey, we could see the actions of North Korea, we could see the current president, Donald Trump, talking about killing many more Afghans, a secret troop strategy. And I'm sitting here in this incarnation scratching my head and going, at what point are those Americans on the left and the right going to have some sort of remorse for the genocide that they have allowed to take place in their name, even more so? Those people that try to warn them, and most especially the only person, right, genetically from that part of the world, but born in the U.S., trying to reach you, wherever you are, with this information. So in my 12th year, we're going to be playing some videos in just a little bit after I finish up this introduction. But all roads seem to have led to this particular reality. After 12, 13 years of independent media activism and outreach, and going from the experience of doing it in an urban environment near some of those very threats that I'm warning about or concerned about or issues within society, to step back, right, and not take the easy way out, but take the hard way. And that means stepping away, right? For someone like me to step away from, a supposed city with everything going on like Portland and to move somewhere else where they don't like outsiders. They especially don't like outsiders with Middle Eastern genetics, but they don't like outsiders in general. But if they are going to be welcoming to outsiders, they're going to be warmer to those that are perceived to be completely white like them. So for me, the whole idea of being rejected by society because you're different, either your soul, your genetics, or what you talk about, your independent nature. Okay, Portland, Oregon first schooled me on their supremacy. Before I got a chance to meet the rest of the world, it was Portland, Oregon that taught me about white supremacy, that taught me what it's like for someone to say, you're a conspiracy theorist and I'm an intellectual progressive. You're garbage. You deserve to have no friends. No, we don't care about where you're from, Alex. We don't care about what you've been through, that you're the only. No. We don't care about what you feel regarding the victims of war. We care more about rejecting you as a member of our tribe than actually hearing what you have to say and seeing that there's no one in the Portland airwaves discussing what you discuss, Alex. There was a day in which I would hear that from Portlanders. Alex, there's nobody like you on our airwaves. Don't forget us, right? When you become famous. And I would say, hey, I'm not interested in becoming famous, but my soul is interested in reaching you with this information and knowledge. And the question that keeps burning in me, at what point are Portlanders going to remember me or realize that I'm back on the air? Now that Trump is the president, the things that I've warned about are actually coming to fruition. So use the internet. Contact me on social media. Sign up at outsidethebox.vhx.tv, because this legacy of work that I've developed that's been laughed at by much of the society and generation, be they older, younger, white, Hispanic, minority, this society in general laughs at the human, warning them about the disasters that are coming upon the horizon. And it seems that some of those events are coming sooner than later. So again, a very special thank you to Ashley, the new Portlander, right? Who actually is one of my closer friends by making sure that these shows are being aired on a weekly basis. You can find other programming and see what else I have over at alexhansery.tv. Check out the other websites. Remember to subscribe to youtube.com/alexhansery. So over the course of the remaining hour, there's going to be a number of clips where I'm going to be expounding upon some of these ideas that I just mentioned in this introduction. And then I will be back next week. I actually have a job that I'm going to be doing, working at a food cart. Believe it or not, it is way easier as a person that's less white to find a job outside of Portland in, say, rural Colorado than Portland proper itself. I'm going to keep coming back, talking to Portlanders about the real nature of that city and giving tips for people to actually start exploring what it actually means to be open-minded, loving, heartfelt, progressive, so on and so forth. Because this is a challenge that you're going to need to meet, because when we look at what Portland is and has turned into right now, it is nothing far removed from Planet of the Apes, as we see the political street fighting, as we see whites dominate the conversation as white supremacy, as to what is white supremacy. The city looks less tolerant and diverse than it's ever been. So Portlanders, message from me to you: you have a lot to work on at this time to improve your image and your vibratory state. With that, here is the first video of the show. Thanks for watching.
In the history of the world who's changed their racist views by being punched. And this may not be a popular thought, but we need to understand that they're human beings who are broken. And eventually it's impossible to reconcile the prejudice once you yourself have witnessed, the people that you think that you hate are not the monsters that you've created in your head.
Alex answering, you sound like the mainstream media. Well, it sounds like the mainstream media is trying to sound legitimate to a certain degree with this type of coverage. By covering things that people want to hear, they may still lead people into wars and banker bailout after banker bailout. But even people that are somewhat indoctrinated by the system to believe what they're told, a lot of people are naturally going to be disgusted by all different forms of supremacy. They may not admit how they may not care enough about maybe certain people overseas. Otherwise, they would ask more of their political leaders. They won't go there. But ultimately, a lot of people don't want to see, and a lot of white people, this nation get marginalized as a Nazi nation. Of course, they're going to ignore the death toll in Iraq and Afghanistan, but they still don't want the nation to be labeled a Nazi nation. So what they were discussing was the idea that there are white supremacists seeking help at this time. And I think a guy like me is capable of providing a lot of help. I was thinking as I was coming down here, thinking about some of the times where I may have been punched by people that other minority groups, Hispanics, blacks, but also whites. Even an Afghani once nearly knocked me out with an open-handed slap. That was 1996 in Portland, Oregon. He was going to that school briefly that I was going to. So basically, I've had a number of, with the exception of Asians, but I've had a number of issues I've been attacked by different racial groups. Does that mean I should be racist against all those different groups? Now, had I been, most of you already know I've only lived in the white American culture and side of the family. I only have the genetic carryover on a physical level, but yet on a personality level, very different than my father and very different than my father's family. And then, of course, there may be some things that are positive that may have carried over. But a lot of the stereotypes regarding genetic disposition to rape and this and that, this is what a lot of white supremacists sound like. They're pushing the argument, not culture, but genetic disposition. At the same time, people use the term multiculturalism, even if it's people from the same American culture. There's just different genetics. But different genetics don't equate to a different culture. So the things that are being said now are asinine retarded. In the year 2017, coming at you from off the grid in Southwest Colorado. I have a newscast planned for you. We're going to talk about the Afghan war and the statements of Donald Trump, as well as the retort from Ron Paul. We're also going to talk about the Russia Army war games, also a new propaganda video from North Korea threatening the United States. And we're seeing all this at the tail end of the total solar eclipse. Russia and China are being positioned, right, to many around the world as the saviors from the West. And this is going to have serious consequences for genuine lovers of freedom worldwide. Now we have a North Korea propaganda video, and it's important to note how these things are increasing. The fears, the threats, the major news occurring around solar flares, occurring around the period of this total eclipse. I don't think it's by accident. I'm not a accident theorist. Accidental theorist. I mean, there seems to be a method to the madness. They seem to really want us afraid and programmed for the inevitable. And I'm hearing Donald Trump supporters talk about the potential need to strike North Korea. I mean, these are people that one day might criticize, as we'll get into, the military-industrial complex and the wars overseas, only to see them flip their personality. There's a lot of personality flips going on these days. It's not just changes in the cosmos. So it's really strange to see people call for Donald Trump to strike North Korea.
Well, tensions remain high on the Korean peninsula as the US and South Korea have started large-scale joint war games. Now, it comes amid continuing anger from Pyongyang. Prior to the drills, North Korea threatened a merciless strike and warned Washington of the risk of uncontrollable nuclear war.
Recently, the USS John McCain slammed into a 600-foot oil tanker in Singapore, and a lot of people are wondering if it's an EMP, Is it a cyber attack? For years I've warned and read reports about China having the ability to hack our military. And it appears that this is actually being discussed in the Chinese media. We're going to be showing you a lot of clips from the Chinese media tonight. And of course, there's a reason for that. If they could show the world how vulnerable the U.S. Navy is, again, the perceivable, undefeatable U.S. Navy. Well, yeah, if they're fighting innocent men, women, and children, or if they're droning people that have nothing but guns to defend them, yeah, the U.S. may come out on top. But when you're dealing with the United States versus China and Russia, there's been a misunderstanding out there that a lot of people have held onto, that the United States is still holding onto military dominance. They're not aware of the cover-ups regarding the technology transfers that China and Russia, and the technologies that China and Russia, they passed on to other countries like Iran, North Korea, and others.
Early indications point to a steering failure, but there are backup systems for that kind of scenario, which leads to the question, how can it have hit another vessel?
We will conduct a thorough and full investigation into this collision, what occurred, what happened, and how it happened.
The collision making huge news in China. Chinese state media saying the US Navy is, quote, becoming a dangerous obstacle in Asian waters. The USS McCain had recently conducted a sensitive operation near one of China's islands. Foreign ministry officials in Beijing say they are, quote, concerned about the threat and hidden danger posed by the relevant incident to the safety of navigation in the South China Sea and relevant waters. And back here, uncomfortable questions for the authorities. The fourth time now that a US warship has been involved in a collision in Asian waters so far this year.
We see a Ron Paul on RT criticizing the secret plan of Donald Trump in Afghanistan, which is widely believed to be widespread genocide. We listen to the way Donald Trump speaks and talks about those people over there.
Just to wrap up this stuff on Trump's speech last night. This is actually, we have a clip. This is one of the more salient points from Trump's speech, in which he says, you know, I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing, which is actually pretty bizarre. Here he is.
We will not talk about numbers of troops or our plans for further military activities. Conditions on the ground, not arbitrary timetables, will guide our strategy from now on. We are not nation building again. We are killing terrorists. They are nothing but thugs and criminals and predators and, that's right, losers. I will not say when we are going to attack, but attack we will.
Thugs and criminals and terrorists. Right. Sort of how George III described us at one point in time.
Terrorists, losers, widespread demonization of the Afghan people. This is Russia Today talking with Ron Paul about the issue.
But I think Trump has been maybe a little bit more upfront that his goal isn't to get done in 6 months or a year. It looks like he's planning to be there for the long term. He knows he wants to increase the troop levels, and he will, but we don't know exactly. And we who are on the pro-peace side think that he should do very, very little without the consent of the Congress. And yet it sounds to me like even he wants to give away some of his authority and say, well, the generals are in charge. The generals are in charge. Let them make all the decisions. And of course, generals are very necessary, very important for national defense. But generals also are trained to kill people. And Trump says that we should be killing more people in Afghanistan. And I think that is a recipe for a disaster. I don't see it coming anyway toward the position that we hold as libertarians. And it's going to be very costly. So I think it will finally end, and our empire will end when we run out of money. And that's maybe not in the too distant future.
Alex Jones was debating someone recently regarding Trump's strategy. You know, Alex Jones used to fake cry more than likely than a real cry, but fake tears for the victims of war in Afghanistan and Iraq. In fact, there's even a bit where he was torturing an iPad to make a point that Americans care more about their iPads than innocent men, women, and children that are dying around the world. Well, it's interesting to see him flip, and whether he's just commenting on Donald Trump's Afghan troop surge, or whether that's his opinion, it sounds like he's saying the only way to win then in Afghanistan is basically just to kill everybody. And this is starting to sound like a Metallica album, Metallica song, more than anything else. Kill them all.
But then I kind of feel bad if that's really what's going on. We're a big enough show now where if he's not going to tell them the strategy, because you don't tell folks what you're going to do, but then you don't want his constituents to get mad at him that he's betrayed us, I'm kind of in a quandary here. But Trump always told us what he was going to do, that he never lied to us. He hasn't lied to us, but he said, I will not tell the enemy what I'm going to do, and I will be, I don't want to say deceptive, but I will put all options on the table when we do something militarily, because you never tell folks what the options are, or then you've eliminated those options. What I think we're seeing is real presidential strategy here, and my gut is the exit is a very strong victory, pulling out with an economic deal, not giving the extremists a safe haven, and cutting off the globalist operation of playing footsie with the Al-Qaeda/ISIS folks. Dr. Pieczenik, that's a mouthful, but is that somewhat accurate, or is that wrong?
It's completely wrong. That dog, Mattis, is a disaster. He hasn't really created anything other than his reputation. He reads all these books.
Well, let me stop you again. You seem really mad. The military sources I've talked to are disgusted by this, and there are a lot of really, right-wing anti...
Men will die. Men will die. Trump has now created a greater graveyard for our men, which shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's absolutely...
But what about his argument? What about his argument that since we've lost so many troops, we've now got to win this? The only way to win it is to kill everyone in Afghanistan.
It's exactly what happened in Vietnam. We kept on putting more and more men until we lost 50,000 men's lives, 250,000, and we killed 3 million Vietnamese, and we lost the war, and we walked out of there.
World leaders are commenting on Trump's Afghanistan strategy, and my speculation is not only is this immoral, this is going to be done, this is being done to destroy the United States and to take the image one step down even further than where it currently is. What are we going to see in the next year or two? Millions dying in Afghanistan? What remaining population there is? And it's very sad that a lot of Americans don't realize that the destabilization of Afghanistan started in the late 70s to 80s with the Russian invasion of that country to be left to its own devices. So people would think, but the United States overly supplied an element of the Mujahideen, and so other Afghan resistant fighters were taken over by the Taliban and Al-Qaeda because of the funding from the West. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is how they destroyed Afghanistan. And it's important that we know how they destroyed Afghanistan and how they demonize Afghans, because it seems like this blueprint is coming to America, maybe in my older years, maybe after some people have passed on from this planet. But there seems to be a demonization effort underway also regarding Americans that's growing and growing and growing. So that's the evil that I'm seeing here. It's heartbreaking to see the images out of Greece, but a brave woman who is speaking about the issues that these Afghan women are facing as they potentially face sudden death in a forced deportation from Greece back to Afghanistan.
No border, no nation, it's all deportation. Stop deporting people. No one is illegal. EU, shame on you. EU, shame on you. EU, shame on you. No nation, it's all deportation. No borders, no nations, it's all deportation. No borders.
We are standing here at the European Union office with Afghan refugees to deliver an official letter of demands for their asylum rights. Last night, President Donald Trump of the United States of America announced sending 4,000 more troops to Afghanistan further escalating the occupation and war in Afghanistan. Refugees, Afghan refugees are fleeing violence. Afghanistan is a conflict zone. Because of this, the European Asylum Services Office must designate Afghanistan as a war zone. And these people here as war refugees, if they do not, it is a violation of international law.
No borders, no nations, stop deportation! Stop deportation! Stop deportation! Stop deportation! Open the borders!
This fight will not end here. They have a lawyer whose name is Arush Rahman. She is legally representing the Afghan refugees of Greece. She will also be sending a letter to the Ministry of Migration and Policy and to the EU office. And if their demands are not met, we will follow up with legal action if we have to. Refugees in Greece, Afghan refugees in Greece will follow up with legal action if these demands are not met.
My name is Mina. ما حقوق برابری میخوایم. افغانستان امن نیست. برای ما خانم ها کودکان امن نیست. ما حقوق برابری میخوایم. تمام حقی که برای سوریا در نظر میگیریم باید برای همه افغان ها در نظر بگیریم. چرا افغان ها رو دیپورت میکنیم؟ ما نمیخوایم همه افغان ها دیپورت بشه. چرا؟ ما حقوق برابری میخوایم. ما آزادی میخوایم. باید برای همه خانم ها و بچه هایی که برای سوری ها هر حقوقی که برای اونها در نظر میگیریم باید برای ما در نظر بگیریم. افغانستان امن نیست. افغانستان داعش وجود داره. افغانستان طالبان هست. ما هیچ امنیتی نداریم. اگر ما امنیت می‌داشتیم هرگز نمی اومدیم پناهنده بشیم به کشورهای اروپایی. اینو حتما مد نظر بگیرین.
We sent a bus to Malakasa Camp to bring refugees here. They were faced with political repression. They were threatened to not receive services like clothing or basic rights if they came to the protest today. This is what refugees in Greece have to deal with.
EU, shame on you! EU, shame on you!
Are now taking the letter up to the EU office. That will be done.
And one of the things that I noticed from that video, of course, is the body language, the eye rolling, that sense of I don't care coming from the security guards behind the Afghan refugees. We're also seeing more people turning on Trump as others pledge their allegiance to Donald Trump after criticizing him 1 week. It's like they're playing their audience for some of the viral pro-Trump YouTubers. Criticize him one day, right? Wrap themselves in the American flag another day and, almost break down in tears about the left hates Donald Trump. The next day criticize Donald Trump's actions in the Middle East. The next day go back to tears about the deep state forcing Trump's hand. I mean, it's like a new form of mental illness. And I'm not kidding you. I never saw this mental illness during Obama or George W. Bush, which leaves me concerned about the future of America. Now, all this is happening as we're seeing more and more civil unrest. Just to start this off, if you will, a little appetizer for some of the more violent videos that are happening right now. Notice how the media will, and this is horrible what happened to the girl, were racial tensions involved, but I can also see the mainstream media playing this clip and this being a top story to amp up the racial tensions, or maybe that reporter or the people that initially made this a story. Because it seems to really fit into that narrative of white versus black. Of course, as we see a lot of talk about a fight between a Mayweather and a McGregor. So this is a clip of a young white girl being put into a lot of pain by some very naive, stupid PE coaches at a high school in Denver, Colorado.
No, you're gonna make it worse. Stop me.
That coach that you saw grab her, he has been let go. They're on leave. I believe 4 to 5 teachers are on leave. And he is also reported to have falsely claimed to have won various Olympic medals. And that claim has been debunked. So maybe there's something even more darker about the character of that particular coach. Definitely looks like a guy who needs his ass kicked. So we see from Press Today, the Iranian news agency, more and more talks about a civil war in America. Again, as they say, the whole world is watching.
The recent unrest in Charlottesville has stoked fears of a new civil war in the United States. Keith Mines for the State Department believes the country faces a 60% chance of civil war over the next 10 to 15 years. We keep saying it can't happen here, but then, holy smokes, it can. To David Blight, a Yale historian, we know we are at risk of civil war or something like it when an election, an enactment, an event, an action by government or people in high places becomes utterly unacceptable to a party, a large group, a significant constituency. However, some others doubt if the country will be plunged into civil war, though underscoring deep divisions along multiple lines.
It's not a civil war, and I think that it's important to make clear that the construction of this narrative of civil war serves the interests of the ruling class. This is a class war. This is a war of the ruling class against the underclass, working class, however you want to phrase it.
During and after his presidential campaign, Donald Trump modeled violence as a way to advance politically, giving the extremist groups a chance to come out of the shadows.
You know, the fringe right-wing skinhead KKK people certainly feel empowered with the Trump presidency. I mean, he panders to them.
As we go to Phoenix, Arizona, we see intense fighting in the streets like Portland, like Boston, like Charlottesville. Reports of more aggressive police actions with tear gas being fired at the activists.
We begin tonight with breaking news. Police and protesters lobbed smoke bombs at each other outside President Trump's rally in Phoenix.
Officers in riot gear lined the streets as supporters and opposition groups marched outside the convention center where the president spoke at the Make America Great Again rally.
Just when it looked like the showdown at President Donald Trump's Phoenix rally would end without any serious incidents, what appeared to be a series of smoke bombs went off at the intersection that separated the rally supporters from thousands of angry Trump protesters, leaving a cloud of smoke hanging over the streets.
Don't Trump what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like!
Protesters shouted their opposition to Trump as the rally ended, but Phoenix police were taking no chances. As the Trump rally supporters exited the convention center, they found a line of police officers in the street to get them out safely and prevent any clashes with the protesters.
I personally would like to send the message that he's not welcome in my city, that his views aren't my views, and that what he stands for is not what I stand for.
We also see tensions in other states by design, I believe, regarding the statues in North Carolina, as we see people fighting. Why weren't they fighting during Obama? Why weren't they fighting during Bush? Why do we have this type of strange groupthink where everybody's fighting at once, tearing down statues and then going after George Washington and going after these other American icons? It seems that taking down the American icons is really what's important here. The racism, the systemic racism within our society, within our political structure, and the ongoing genocide in the Middle East, that is not set to change. The statues, more or less, seems to be something for the people to fight over. If it wasn't fun enough just fighting at Portland's waterfront, how about a couple of people fighting over statues and people getting angry about paint being thrown on those statues? As we're also seeing an increase in people fighting over a Chinese-made flag, U.S. flag, being burned. People fighting the street, my flag, my flag, no, that's my flag, no, that's my flag. That's really crazy behavior. We also see Charlottesville City Council, the city where all these things went down, having a major disruption there.
Of how an outside group can come into our town with such a message of hate.
Okay, we're gonna suspend, guys, everyone, with the right, listen. We're gonna have to suspend the meeting. The right place for this is gonna be Thursday night. This is gonna be Thursday night. I'm gonna have to call you to order. Okay, I'm gonna start expelling anybody. So, okay, ma'am, you've been called to order. Called to order. And I'm gonna ask the officers to identify anybody who speaks out without being recognized. You have one chance, then you have to be called to order, then you'll be removed. And we've got folks who will do this. We don't want to do this. We want to get through the meeting. We have 20 spots for Matters by the Public. We also have a whole open-ended Matters by the Public after the meeting. We also have a town hall meeting on Thursday. What's the alternative? For everybody just to shout and scream? But that's not the rules. We don't do that just from the floor. Well, you understand you all can't be seen on camera and that the council wants these rules to be maintained. This is not the way to go about. So, okay, so ma'am, sir, you've been called to order, so you'll have to be removed. And we're just gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to do this. Okay, and, all right, so we're gonna suspend the meeting.
Finally, I want to bring your attention to the fact that Chinese state media is discussing the fact that Donald Trump is not condemning elements of the right-wing violence. And this is what's critical for America to understand. Trump has been selected to play this role. As Americans watch this and riot, as people around the world watch this and riot, as the president refuses to condemn racist attacks, refuses to condemn domestic terrorism, mosques are now being bombed in the United States. See, the top meme on Donald Trump Reddit was the little frog, Pepit, whatever, and the meme was drone them all, and it was showing a drone, and it was going over Afghanistan. And their top Reddit, like, drone them all. There's a reason why Donald Trump supporters are not trusted. And it's their willingness to go along with a genocidal program. And they're hypocritical because a lot of them criticized Obama's wars. A lot of them criticized Bush's war. And I'm concerned. It seems like there's some sort of an evil spell that's been cast. But mark my words, China and Russia, although they're not perfect themselves, they're going to use the actions of Donald Trump against the American people. And they're also building the case that the American people are incapable of keeping their own leaders in line. You're going to see that narrative build as well. It's a traditional problem reaction solution that leads in one direction, and that is intervention in U.S. politics, the economy, the media, the internet, and so much more.